Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I take the floor to provide unbridled support for the appropriation bill for the fiscal year 2025-2026, I am indeed mindful that this budget policy debate follows much ventilation on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for fiscal year 2025-2026. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, this debate allows us to give sensible treatment to the budget policies and programs of the government and to assess the effectiveness and success of these budget policies in the context of the economic performance and social development of our country. Mr. Speaker, I derive some level of inspiration from the member for Vieux-Fort South when he took us on a journey through the corridors of time. I think that he has actually established the runway for a positive takeoff, Mr. Speaker. And as I taxi for takeoff, Mr. Speaker, just like the pilot in command from time to time will say to passengers, it's a good day to fly. Because the ceiling and visibility is okay, the wind speed is fine, the wind direction is okay, and we're in VMC conditions. This is an excellent budget to navigate. Although, Mr. Speaker, we are navigating an environment of severe turbulence, which poses a significant threat to our nation's ability to navigate the turbulence of the moment and could further isolate us. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, the global political environment is still largely impacted by great power rivalry, which has significantly altered the global system, and there is also significant anxiety regarding high-stake elections around the world and how these things could impact the reallocation of global power and resources. This altered international environment has introduced new challenges that necessitate fresh diplomatic decisions, allowing for practical re-evaluation of economic and political strategies and the restructuring of its external relations in a more realistic and multifaceted manner. Hence, Mr. Speaker, in this uncertain global political context, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia has indicated very clearly that his administration's foreign policy posture is that St. Lucia continues to pursue a cautious and principled foreign policy that is grounded in strategic patience, non-interference in the affairs of others, reaching out to non-traditional partners to create an improved framework for us to match our basic need with greater possibilities. The central focus of which is to advance St. Lucia's development agenda and to cooperate with like-minded countries on common objectives of humanity. I know that the Ministry of External Affairs normally get limited available resources to, of course, survey multiple spheres around the world. And I think that they have done a tremendous job in assisting the country in mobilizing resources for its socioeconomic development. And I want to, at this juncture, Mr. Speaker, thank the staff at the ministry for navigating the turbulence of the moment with grace and with great dexterity. Mr. Speaker, when our government, ably led by the highly competent and brilliant economists and financial experts, took over the levers of power in July 2021, we knew we had the monumental task of rescuing St. Lucia from the economic abyss that it had been plunged into by the former administration, led by the leader of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, the mismanagement, sheer incompetence and poor governance of St. Lucia by the former administration led to a massive outcry for a change in the direction of the country, and the people expressed their discontent in the ballot boxes by dislodging the UWP government, led by the member for Miku South from the seat of power. Mr. Speaker, during our 5 years in opposition between 2016 and 2021, in commending the member for Kaswis East, the Honorable Philip Joseph Pierre, to the people of St. Lucia, I did so by clearly expressing confidence in his ability as Prime Minister and Minister for Finance to redesign the social pact in the country, reverse its fortunes, and place St. Lucia once more on a higher growth trajectory and increasing the welfare of all its citizens. I confidently said so, Mr. Speaker, because I knew when our government assumed office, we would have inherited a serious economic and fiscal crisis, which would have required visionary leadership, strategic foresight, and economic, financial, and fiscal expertise, attributes I know that the Honorable Member for Kaswis East possesses in abundance, Mr. Speaker. He has also assembled a team of men and women who have provided strong support to the effort of not only rescuing St. Lucia from the dire straits it was in, but also in accelerating the economic and social development of St. Lucia. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the economy is being transformed into a high-performing economy which is firmly anchored in resilience, inclusiveness, good governance, and equity. Mr. Speaker, the policies articulated in the budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 builds on the solid foundation and platform established in the previous three budgets presented by the Minister for Finance, because these policies have continued to improve the economic and social lives of the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, these are not mere words. They are reflected in all of the economic reports written on St. Lucia internationally, regionally, and nationally. Mr. Speaker, the barometer to determine how successful budget policies are is to ask oneself the simple question. That is, are the lives of our people better? Are the lives of St. Lucians better? And I will answer this question by examining the progress we have made in economic and social development of this country. I will therefore, Mr. Speaker, provide irrefutable evidence of the success of our economic and social policies by referring to the Economic and Social Review for 2024, as well as other international and regional reports where necessary. I will also, Mr. Speaker, where necessary, refute the lies, the mistruths, and propaganda being peddled about the budget by the leader of the opposition and his acolytes on the economic, fiscal, and social policies of the government. Because, Mr. Speaker, whilst they are afraid to debate in this honorable House, as their lies would be immediately refuted, they are on talk shows and social media platforms spewing lies and propaganda. Miu Minu. Mr. Speaker, I listened, for example, to the leader of the opposition on some DBS talk show. I heard him speaking on the economic and fiscal policies of our government. I heard a lot of mistruths, propaganda, perverse economic analysis, and deception. He spoke glibly and made no reference to economic and social data. He again attempted to mislead the public by trying to suggest that they were better off in 2019 than they are today. Mr. Speaker, he presented no data, spurious economic analysis, and attempted to gaslight the people of St. Lucia by trying his best to convince them that they were better off, they were worse off today than when they were in office. But the people know better. In responding to the PM's policy statement, I will present a kaleidoscope of empirical data, evidence, and economic reports to show that we are substantially better off today under the St. Lucia Labour Party government than in 2019. And to support my assertion, Mr. Speaker, I will focus on the following critical areas. economic growth and development. 2, economic and fiscal policies. 3, financial sector. 4, the labor market, and in particular the issue of job creation, employment and unemployment. 5, infrastructure. 6, private sector. And 7, social policies, including health, education, and equity. Mr. Speaker, I wish to state from the outset, and the Prime Minister made it clear in his budget presentation on Tuesday evening, that there are no new taxes in this budget. No new taxes. And that the increase in taxes included in the budget is projected on the basis that the economy will continue to grow in 2025, and that there will be greater efficiency in collecting outstanding taxes. Mr. Speaker, the opposition is already peddling lies that our government intends to increase VAT if we win the next elections. They are desperate, Mr. Speaker, and are using the full armory of mind-bending techniques they learned from Cambridge Analytica. Let us look at the first aspect, economic growth. Mr. Speaker, real economic growth in 2024 is estimated at 4.7%, following growth rates of 3.3% in 2023, 20.6% in 2022, and 11.3% in 2021. The reference for this, Mr. Speaker, is Table 2, page 106 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review. I will explain soon why I emphasize real growth, Mr. Speaker. This series of consecutive economic growth rates is unprecedented over the period 1990 to 2024 and is impressive by any international standard, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let us now compare our performance with the series of economic growth rates recorded by the former UWP administration. During their tenure, Mr. Speaker, economic growth was 3.4% in 2016, 3.4% in 2017, then started to lose momentum, decelerating to 2.9% in 2018, and then moved from decelerating to going into reverse, recording negative growth of 0.7% in 2019. It is clear, Mr. Speaker, yes, before COVID in 2019, it is clear, Mr. Speaker, that the economy was heading downhill even before COVID impacted us in 2020. Mr. Speaker, COVID cannot therefore be used as an excuse for the poor economic performance in 2019. In fact, in 2019, Mr. Speaker, all other ECCB member countries recorded positive growth rates. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, Antigua and Barbuda growth rate was 3.4%, Dominica 3.6%, Grenada 1.9%, St. Kitts and Nevis 1.9%, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines 0.5%. Mr. Speaker, all of these countries experienced economic growth. St. Lucia was the only country in the ECCB countries that experienced a contraction. The reference for this information, Mr. Speaker, is page 9 of the 2020 Economic and Social Review. And this, Mr. Speaker, is after 3 years of the Chasney-led privatized version of the UWP. It is also the case, Mr. Speaker, that we had the largest economic contraction among the ECCU countries in 2020. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the record of economic performance pales in comparison to the performance of the St. Lucia Labour Party government over the period 2021 to 2024. I wish to also state, Mr. Speaker, that the economic growth rate for 2023 was revised from 2.2% to 3.3%. You may recall, Mr. Speaker, that the IMF projected growth of 3.3%. And in my presentation last year, I suggested that I believe the IMF projection was more accurate. I have now been vindicated, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, how good is our economic growth rate of 4.7% in 2024? Let us now answer this question. Mr. Speaker, world economic growth was 3.2% in 2024, 1.5% lower than our economic growth in St. Lucia. Reference page 1 of the Economic and Social Review for 2024. Our growth rate was also higher than the economic growth rate of emerging markets and developing economies, which grew by 4.2%. Reference page 2 of the Economic and Social Review. Our growth rate was also higher than Barbados, which grew by 4%. Higher than Trinidad and Tobago, which grew by 1.9%. And Jamaica, which contracted by 0.9%. Reference page 9 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review. More significantly, Mr. Speaker, we had the highest economic growth rate in the OECS, Mr. Speaker. I wish to repeat, we had the highest economic growth rate in the OECS. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, I wish to refer honorable members to table 3 on page 13 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review. You will note, Mr. Speaker, that Antigua and Barbuda grew by 4.3%, Dominica 2.1%, Grenada 4%, St. Kitts and Nevis 1.2%, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines by 4.1%. Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia recorded the best economic performance of 4.7%. We were better off than the world economic growth, better than the EMDEs, better than the Caribbean with the exception of Guyana, and better than the rest of the OECS. And the opposition is asking people to rescue St. Lucia and put them back into office. Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia was rescued on July 26, 2021. And there is no need for turning back to the failed policies and inept and poor governance that were the hallmarks of the former UWP government. Mr. Speaker, the economic growth rate of 4.7% did not happen by accident nor by coincidence. It happened by design and reflects the culmination of our successful economic and fiscal policies over the fiscal years 2022-2023, 2023-2024, and 2024-2025. Mr. Speaker, they say it's AI. Of course, it is actual intelligence that brought about this outcome, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need to give thanks to the architect who designed the economic and fiscal policies to achieve these brilliant outcomes, the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance and member for Cassis East. Mr. Speaker, in our manifesto, in which we promised to put the people first, we stated that our first order of priority was to stabilize and grow the economy. We have achieved and even surpassed that, Mr. Speaker. The next question, Mr. Speaker, we have to address is whether we are better off from a financial and economic perspective than in 2019. Unlike the voodoo economics of the leader of the opposition, I will review the economic data, and in this regard, I wish to refer honorable members to Table 2, page 106 of the Economic and Social Review. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that real GDP at market prices in 2024 was $6.1 billion, compared to $5.5 billion in 2019. $6.1 billion in 2024 and $5.5 billion in 2019, representing an increase of 10.9% over 2019, Mr. Speaker. This means that the value added generated in the economy in 2024 was 10.9% higher than it was in 2019. And this is real value added, Mr. Speaker. This is not nominal GDP. That's real value added. This shows clearly, Mr. Speaker, that our budget policies are working well. And we are far better off in 2024 than we were in 2019. Because a growing economy usually leads to a better quality of life, Mr. Speaker. Expansion creates jobs, raises salaries, and boosts consumer spending. And we will see in the rest of the figures, Mr. Speaker, that that diagnosis is actually correct. Unable to accept this outcome, Mr. Speaker, I heard the leader of the opposition in his interview, I think it was with Lisa Joseph earlier this month, that taxes and inflation were responsible for driving economic growth. Was that an error, Leader of the Opposition, through you, or you stand by this? I listened many times, Mr. Speaker, because I could not believe that a former Minister for Finance could posit such a view. I do not know where the Leader of the Opposition learned this new economics. Maybe the Leader of the Opposition can point honorable members to the economic theory that supports the view that economic growth can be generated by inflation and taxes. Mr. Speaker, a direct consequence of his statement is that we need to increase taxes and inflation if we want to create economic growth. Mr. Speaker, any high school student, not even a first-year university student who studied economics, must be shaking their heads in disbelief at such an absurd statement. And I asked the Leader of the Opposition through you, Mr. Speaker, whether he misspoke or he was serious about that view. No, I'm not going there. About the view that inflation and taxes can generate economic growth. I am aware, Mr. Speaker, that Dr. Carlton Augustine, a St. Lucian, a distinguished economist and university lecturer in the US, has addressed this particular issue. And so he addressed it from the inflation side. But I also want to address it from the taxes side, Mr. Speaker. The fallacy that inflation has driven economic growth, but also the other fallacy that taxes have driven economic growth. I wish to submit, Mr. Speaker, that there is absolutely no causal relationship in which inflation and increased taxes cause economic growth. Mr. Speaker, real GDP is a measure of value added in the economy, and economic growth, which is expressed as real GDP, excludes inflation. Mr. Speaker, I wish to repeat, real GDP excludes inflation. And I think the member from Mico South and Leader of the Opposition, he knows that. The Leader of the Opposition should know higher prices will be reflected in nominal GDP and not real GDP. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, higher inflation, if not compensated for by equivalent wage increases, will result in a reduction in real income and a reduction in consumption in most cases. So higher inflation should have a reverse effect on real GDP as opposed to increasing GDP. Now, Mr. Speaker, I am aware of the ranting and raving of the opposition members on inflation and the cost of living. It appears that they have a magic wand, that they can magically cause inflation to disappear, Mr. Speaker. Everywhere in the world is grappling with inflation, Mr. Speaker. The mighty United States of America is grappling with inflation, struggling to control inflation. But somehow the Leader of the Opposition has a magic wand, like David Copperfield, and he will cause inflation to just disappear. But we do have good news, Mr. Speaker. Inflation this year was negative 0.5, Mr. Speaker. A good sign that prices came down marginally and prices have somewhat stabilized in St. Lucia. We also did better than our OECS counterparts, Mr. Speaker, as far as this is concerned. And as a measure of comparison, the inflation rate in Antigua was 6.4%, Dominica 2.6%, and in both Grenada and St. Kitts and Nevis, 1.1%. We had the lowest inflation rate in the OECS in 2024. Our inflation rate was also lower than the other Caribbean countries. The reference for this information, Mr. Speaker, is page 9, table 2, and page 13, table 3 of the Economic and Social Review. As a measure of comparison, world inflation was 5.7%. I repeat, Mr. Speaker, 5.7%, with the US at 3% and the UK at 2.6%. This information is on table 1, page 3 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review. It is to be noted that while inflation is import-driven, our tax and subsidy policies have played an important part in bringing down inflation, Mr. Speaker. The other part of his ridiculous argument is that increased taxes generate economic growth. This, Mr. Speaker, makes absolutely no sense. The relationship between tax revenue and GDP is well established and is basic. Higher GDP leads to an increase in taxation, as most taxes are computed on a percentage basis. So, as you grow the economy, you don't have to increase prices, you will collect more taxes. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition stated that the population was burdened by additional taxes equivalent to 300 million, which he says represent the increase in taxes from 2019 to the current period. The increase in taxes from 2019, 2020 to 2024, 2025 was in fact 319.1 million. Table 44, page 129 of the 2024 review. So we need to ask the next question, Mr. Speaker. What taxes have we increased or introduced? The only tax, Mr. Speaker, that our government has introduced is the Health and Security Levy. The amount collected in fiscal year 2024-2025 was 17.1 million. And the reference for this information is table 44, page 129 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review. But, Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind the leader of the opposition that our government has reduced taxes and increased subsidies in a number of important areas critical to the welfare of the population, and these measures have reduced taxes and increased expenditure. Mr. Speaker, the notion that our government believes in high taxes is absurd. I will elaborate on this later, Mr. Speaker, when I discuss economic and fiscal policies of the government. The point is that, Mr. Speaker, revenue has not increased because of increase on new taxes we have introduced, but is fundamentally driven by the growth in the economy. That's right. Mr. Speaker, the economy has expanded significantly over the period 2021 to 2024, with this growth being generated by consumption and investment, which has resulted in increased tax collections. This is supported by the latest business performance survey by the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, which shows that most businesses have indicated that sales are increasing. I will also elaborate on this survey a bit later in my presentation. Mr. Speaker, the measure used by economists to measure the tax burden of an economy is calculated by the tax revenue divided by GDP at constant market prices. This is a simple calculation, and we should not be hoodwinked by the leader of the opposition inventing his own brand of econotricks to fool the people. Mr. Speaker, the tax burden for the fiscal year 2024-2025 was 19.8%. It is important to note that the range for tax to GDP ratio is from a low of 10 Indonesia to figures as high as 35%, some countries in the European Union. So, Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia's tax burden is therefore well within acceptable international standards. So, Mr. Speaker, the argument that our government is overtaxing the people is an absurd one, Mr. Speaker. We are aware that no one wants to pay more taxes. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. But at the same time, it was clear that the health sector and the citizen security sector have been chronically underfunded for many decades. I do not think that any logical person can truthfully say that the health and security sectors were adequately funded. We therefore had to make a tough decision to stem the declines in these sectors. Our government is not afraid to make those very important decisions in the best interest of the people of St. Lucia. We will not do like the previous government and waste the scarce resources of the people, recklessly buying vaccines that we have not received to date, or by purchasing incinerators that have never worked, or building a road leading to a horse race track, Mr. Speaker. We are not using taxpayers' money for that. We are a responsible government, a government that our people can trust, and we will make the right decisions that will help to improve the lives of the people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the international standard for measuring how well a country performs or how well people are in society is GDP per capita. I will be the first to tell you, it is by no means perfect, but it is the best international metric available. Let us therefore use this metric to determine whether the people are better off today than in 2019. Mr. Speaker, our GDP per capita was US $13,798.90 in 2024. As shown in the fact sheet page 14, Roman numeral 14 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review, compared with a GDP per capita of US $11,442.14. The latter figure I derived, Mr. Speaker, from the GDP at current market prices data on page 105 in Table 1 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review. The figure is 5.56 billion EC dollars in 2019. And the population, Mr. Speaker, in 2019 was approximately 180,000. The source of the population data is the statistics website, stats.gov.lc. One simply divides the GDP at current market prices by the population. So, Mr. Speaker, our GDP per capita, which is simply the economic output per person, has increased from $11,442.12 in 2019 to $13,798.90 in 2004, an increase of $2,356.78, or an increase of 20.6%, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, from an income perspective, the average person in 2024 is far better off than that same person in 2019. I now wish to turn to economic and fiscal policies. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that our government has implemented a package of economic and fiscal policies that are geared to promoting investment, stimulating employment, increasing incomes, providing social safety net, reducing structural bottlenecks in the economy, and increasing economic and social development. We have made progress in all of these areas, Mr. Speaker. We are a small island developing state, and we face significant challenges. Given our GDP per capita, which continues to grow, we are no longer eligible, as you know, for concessionary financing. They always use GDP per capita to graduate us out of receiving concessional financing. Our challenge has been to create the fiscal space to enable us to spend on the areas that require critical attention to stimulate growth and provide social protection to the people. We also face, Mr. Speaker, the critical challenge of climate change that requires us to spend even more money on infrastructural investments to make them climate resilient. It is important to note that the fiscal strategy of this government has been to increase our primary surplus, to allow us to address the deficits in our infrastructure, to invest more money in our economic sectors, notably tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, expand the digital economy, invest in new and emerging sectors with a great emphasis on the youth economy, and invest in our social and citizen security sectors, which have been chronically underfunded. So we need to ask, Mr. Speaker, have we achieved our aim of generating primary surpluses to create the necessary fiscal space? The answer to this question, Mr. Speaker, is in Table 32 on page 127 of the Economic and Social Review. This table shows that we inherited a primary deficit of $115.9 million in fiscal year 2020-2021. And we have turned around this deficit into a primary surplus of $101.8 billion. So our fiscal strategy, Mr. Speaker, has been one geared to ensuring that our fiscal policies are strong and provide investments for the future growth and development of the economy. And we have certainly seen that the economy has grown at record levels, Mr. Speaker. And those significant figures are as a result of sound policies, Mr. Speaker. And only when you have a strong economy, you can deliver social services to the people, increasingly reaching out to them and including the most vulnerable, including single mothers, that all of a sudden you all are championing. We'll come to that. Mr. Speaker, I wish to now turn to the public debt of the country. It is important to note that the public debt to GDP was 92.5% in 2020. And given this high unsustainable level, our government, on assuming office after the July 26, 2021 elections, had to take immediate measures to reduce borrowing, resulting in the public debt to GDP ratio falling to 81.9% in 2021. Our fiscal strategy has since brought down the public debt to GDP ratio to 73.5% in 2024. The ratio is still high, Mr. Speaker, as indicated by the member for Vieux South, and I know that the Minister for Finance is keen to bring down the ratio to meet the agreed Monetary Council target of 60% by 2035. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, our government is a compassionate and caring government, and we understand the need to provide support to the lower income people in our society. We do not, unlike the former government, believe in trickle-down economics. There is need, therefore, to provide support to our less well-off in society. Mr. Speaker, our government has been the most progressive government in this regard. It is well known, Mr. Speaker, that our income tax reform strategy, which resulted in an increase in the personal income tax allowance from $18,000 to $25,000 per annum, resulted in an additional 15,000 people paying no taxes. We have also reduced the income tax band from 4 to 3. The combined effect of the increase in personal income tax allowance and reducing the number of income tax bands from 4 to 3 has resulted in 2/3 of St. Lucia paying less income tax. This will in turn result in an increase in disposable income of these individuals, resulting in the ability to spend more and provide for the basic needs. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, we have continued to provide tax amnesties by waiving interest and penalties on major taxes collected by the Inland Revenue Department. Further, to stimulate the construction and housing sectors, Mr. Speaker, the government has waived the value-added tax on plywood, lumber, steel, cement, and galvanized for a period of 2 years with effect from July 2023. The government also continues to subsidize the cost of LPG and rice, flour, and sugar to the tune of millions of dollars. The government has provided a rebate of $1 per gallon on fuel purchased by registered fishers. It is important to recall, Mr. Speaker, that under the former administration led by the leader of the opposition, they refused to give the fishermen any subsidy because they say they use the roads. He did not foresee the wider detrimental impact of his policy on the fisheries sector. Fishermen had now to pay more. Their unit costs had increased, and they had to go further out at sea to catch fish. That's why they go for the fads, so that they can at least try to manage this situation. The leader of the opposition simply said, whilst he was prime minister, that they used the roads. So they were not worthy of that. He did not anticipate the detrimental impact of his policy on the fishery sector. Our government has also provided major tax concessions in the renewable energy sector, with selected PV components placed in the zero-rated category under the cost and installation of a PV system will be allowed as a tax deductible over a period, a maximum period of 2 years. Now, Mr. Speaker, before I get down to business with the health and security levy, I recall last night when the member for Choiseul was on his feet. He tried to look for some cancan, some row with us about fuel prices. That somehow we enjoying fuel prices that are more favorable than when they were there. But you see, Mr. Speaker, when Zuti Bali, and I want to address the issue now, Mr. Speaker, as there seemed to be once again an attempt to use fuel to propel their way to office. The first time they used it, they lied to the people that there was a hidden $6.80. And then they couldn't find that $6.80. And they will recall that the leader of the opposition, he tabled a report in this very parliament on fuel margin variations under the market pass-through pricing system in the House of Assembly on December 15, 2020. In that report, he grudgingly admitted that there was no hidden consumption tax of $6.80 per gallon. He did not, however, apologize for lying to the public of St. Lucia when he and his privatized version of UWP continued to peddle this untruth and even rallied St. Lucians in the so-called Orange March. So you all mobilize people along a lie. You all inflame the passions of the people of this country and add them to come and follow you in some bogus march. Members can then recall the embarrassing episode in which he said his first order of business was to approve a reduction in fuel prices when he in fact signed an approval to increase the price of fuel. He is using the same old Cambridge Analytica trick to see if it can work again. But it ain't going to work on the person you all call Ray Charles. It ain't working again. And do not provoke him, because he sang to the member for Soufrière. And where is the member for Soufrière? He's not there. Now, if you see, if Ray Charles sings to you, hit the road, Jack, and don't come back here no more, you'll be in trouble. Do not provoke the member for Cassis East. You are again trying to fool the public about the price of fuel. You and your UWP acolytes are claiming that fuel prices were much higher when they were in office than fuel prices now. But let us subject this to the sunlight of pragmatism and truth. And if we go to the website, http://www.macrotrends.net/1369/crude-oil-price-history-chart. Mr. Speaker, the average closing, the year high and year low crude prices per barrel in US dollars over the period 2016 to 2021 were as follows. 2016, 43.29. 2017, 50.80. 2018, 65.23. 2019, 56.99. 2020, 39.68. 2021, 68.17. But if I remembered correctly last night, you said you inherited about $77 and something cents. The member for Choiseul. What did you say? 2019, 56.99. No, I'm not worried if you. You see, Mr. Speaker, everything is AI, because you see, that's why I deliberately use the social economic review and other factual data.
What is factual is that you have 15 minutes left.
Yes, that too. That's also factual. It is to be noted that these were the prices during the tenure of the UWP. And we must note that it began to rise in 2021, Mr. Speaker. It is clear that crude average oil prices began a steep rise in the latter part of 2021 when we came in. You must note as well that you benefited from very low oil prices with the average prices, with the exception of 2021, generally being lower than $70 per barrel. Now let us look at crude oil prices during the tenure of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Noting that we presided over half of the year 2021 when oil prices began to rise sharply from the very, very low prices in 2020. You should note as well, Mr. Speaker, that the UWP government did not lower oil prices in 2020 when the people were at the most desperate, even when oil prices hit a record low of US $11.26 a barrel. He collected the record excess in revenue, Mr. Speaker. Did you care about the single mothers? Did you care about the most vulnerable? You kept it there. You kept it artificially high. The fuel prices. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that our government has faced much higher oil prices than the UWP. In 2021, 68.17. 2022, 94.53. And the year high was $123.70. 2023, 77.64. 2024, 75.83. And thus far, in 2025, it is $70.15. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that our government has faced much higher oil prices than the UWP faced during the tenure. Oil prices high were in excess of US $80 in all of the years, with the oil price high in 2022 hitting, as I said a while ago, $123.7 per barrel, and US 93.84 in 2023 and US 87.04 in 2024. The oil prices high during their term in office range between US $50 and US $60. Nowhere close to what we have to grapple with one exception being in 2018 when it went up to 77.41. That was the high. It is clear, therefore, Mr. Speaker, that oil prices have been significantly higher during our tenure than in the reign of the UWP government. This is another big fat lie that I have exposed, Mr. Speaker. Sadly, Mr. Speaker, while the UWP government benefited from comparatively very low oil prices, he still found it fitting to punish St. Lucians, by imposing an additional excise tax of $1.50. After he claimed that there was a $6.80 hidden tax, he came in promising to reduce it. He reduced it, found low prices. He put $1.50 on it per gallon, which is said will be placed in a lockbox to repair roads. This lockbox, Mr. Speaker, turned out to be a mystery, as up to now. MI6 can't find it, FBI can't find it, KGB can't find it. Nobody can find that lockbox. That's a mystery, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition and his acolytes have again been perpetuating the myth that fuel prices are too high, and he again attempted to orchestrate another orange march. They were going to people telling them, put an orange thing, put it on a bus, put it there, but the people are not going to be fooled anymore. I also wish to point out, Mr. Speaker, that your administration would try to fool St. Lucians, telling them that they would eliminate VAT. You remember that? Eliminate VAT. When he realized that this would have created a financial calamity, he reduced the VAT by 2.5% points from 15% to 12.5%. This created a major fiscal hole in the budget. And soon after, Mr. Speaker, he increased the excise tax from $3 per imperial gallon to $4.50 per imperial gallon to compensate for the loss in revenue from the VAT. He said that this money was to go in the lockbox, but this never happened. It went into the consolidated fund to close the gap he created by reducing the VAT. You see, that is the kind of trickery that they engage with. Pakusa, tutubushi. Not this time that you all are going to succeed with your package. The health and security levy. Mr. Speaker, I now want to debate the health and security levy. The major focus of attack of the members opposite. It is important to debate this matter as it leads to a wider debate on fiscal policy. Mr. Speaker, the starting point of this debate is that we can all agree that health and crime are major issues that the St. Lucian government needs to address. Secondly, we can all agree that health and citizen security have been chronically underfunded. We can therefore agree that we need to invest more money into these sectors. Mr. Speaker, given that we do not have enough tax revenue to provide additional resources, given that other sectors like education and infrastructure are also underfunded, the question becomes, what do we do? Do we allow these sectors to continue to perform poorly and cause hardship to our people? Or do we address the problem head on? Mr. Speaker, we have taken the realistic and fiscally responsible decision to deal with the problems we face with health and citizen security. That's what we have done. We have taken the responsible position to assist the most vulnerable, the people who look up to us for compassion and direction. And we have put mechanisms in place to help cushion that effect. We have heard nothing but magie economics from the opposition. The fiscal policy solution for the country can be summed as reducing VAT to 10%, removing the health and security levy, reducing fuel prices significantly, and implementing national health insurance. Three of these measures will result in the reduction of taxes of possibly hundreds of millions of dollars. And up to now, they have not explained how they are going to finance national health insurance. They have them no credible plan. The leader of the opposition says that there are documents to show that his government was developing a national health insurance. But no one knows where these documents are. Where are those documents? I suspect they are vanished in the lockbox in truth, Mr. Speaker. In a nutshell, they are advocating for less taxes, possibly a reduction of hundreds of millions of dollars, and increased expenditures. Mr. Speaker, any student of macroeconomics would know that this is fiscal folly and a recipe for a government to go bankrupt, as they almost did us in 2021 before we took over. Mr. Speaker, remember in 2016 they fooled St. Lucians by saying they would eliminate VAT? They are coming again to fool St. Lucian with policies that sound nice, as we would all want to have taxes reduced and implement a national health insurance that nobody pays for. This is, however, fantasy economics, Mr. Speaker, that cannot be implemented in the real world. Fantasy economics that cannot be implemented in the real world. Our government, Mr. Speaker, has placed emphasis on providing support to the less fortunate in our society. In this regard, our government implemented the minimum wage with effect from August 1st, 2024. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the government also raised the minimum monthly pension to former government employees to $725 and to NIC employees to $500. The combined effect of these measures has been an increase in the disposable income of approximately 13,000 people in St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, we all know that the former administration did nothing for the less fortunate, as the philosophy is based on trickle-down economics, which I have been talking about over the years, that never worked for anybody. This has been a palpable failure globally, but they remain obedient to its dictates. More recently, Mr. Speaker, our government, recognizing the impact of inflation, has recently concluded negotiations with the public sector unions, granting a cumulative increase of 13% over the period 2022-2023 to 2027-2028. Our government paid the back pay of 34.5%.
Honourable Member, you have 5 minutes left.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that Standing Order 32.8 be suspended to allow the honorable member an extra half hour to finish his presentation.
Honorable members, the question is that Standing Order 32.8 be suspended and Standing Order 32.10 be implemented to allow the member for Labrie an additional 30 minutes in which to complete his presentation. We now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very, very much, honorable members. I will continue my navigation. Mr. Speaker, 44.5 million tax-free for the first period, in which a 6% increase was granted. Our government will be paying the increase of 2% this month. I think salaries were already there, Mr. Speaker. This will result in an increase of 8% for public officers. It should be noted, Mr. Speaker, that our government had to pay the back pay to public officers in respect of wage negotiations concluded by the former administration. A major flagship economic policy of our government has been the establishment of the youth economy. The aim of the youth economy, Mr. Speaker, is to provide young people with a special economic space to conduct their business. Mr. Speaker, the youth economy aims to carve out a unique space in the general economic system for youth and business growth by providing state resources to young people to create sustainable livelihoods through business development, finance, and marketing support and training and mentorship. The achievements as at December 2024 include awarding grants to 1,153 beneficiaries. The Prime Minister accentuated that, mounting to 4.5 million and spending over 1 million on training to upskill young businesses. Mr. Speaker, we have realized that the last administration left us with no fiscal space to finance critical investments. We have therefore engaged in meaningful and mutually beneficial private-public partnerships for the development of the cruise sector. GPH has agreed to take over SLASPER's cruise-related debts and invest substantially in the development of the cruise infrastructure in Castries and Soufrière to make us more competitive. As we all know, Mr. Speaker, the former government abandoned the PPP for the airport and got SLASPER to take a massive loan of over $500 million, and as a result, it did not have the financial capacity to take out any more loans for port development. And I'm going to accentuate that, Mr. Speaker. We keep hearing that the former Prime Minister, now leader of the opposition, was close to finalizing a contract to develop Port Beaufort as a cruise port. Maybe, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition needs to present this document to the House, as no one seems to know about these negotiations to develop Port Beaufort as a cruise port. This is a mystery, just like the lockbox, Mr. Speaker. We have also engaged in PPPs with NIPRO for the Grosile police station and with a subsidiary of NH International for the Hall of Justice. I now look at the financial sector. I will turn my attention there, as a healthy economy requires the support of a strong and robust financial sector. Healthy growth in the financial sector is also an indication that there is confidence in the economy, as banks and credit unions will provide more lending to people and companies. Mr. Speaker, in addition, growth in the money supply is an indication that financial savings are increasing. The 2024 Economic and Social Review on page 20, and I quote, "Conditions in the financial sector remained stable and were characterized by higher levels of liquidity, continued private sector credit growth." This means that banks are lending more to the private sector, reflecting increased confidence in the future of St. Lucia's economy, improved asset quality and profitability, unquote. It is notable, Mr. Speaker, that deposits grew 5 times faster than loans. I repeat, it is notable that deposits grew 5 times faster than loans, indicating increased financial savings by St. Lucians. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the non-performing loans to gross loans ratio fell from 14.5% in December 2023 to 11.9% in December 2024, a positive sign that more people are paying their loans on time. In the non-banking financial sector, Mr. Speaker, credit unions' assets and loans continued to grow by 10%, while non-performing loans continued to fall, a trend established since 2021. There is no doubt now, Mr. Speaker, that the credit unions play a major role in the development of our economy and provide valuable financial services to their members. I now turn to the other aspect I use as an indicator, and that is the labor market. Mr. Speaker, economic growth is meaningless if it does not create jobs for the people. Our strategy has been to develop an economic recovery which ensures that jobs are created. And of course, as a consequence to this, unemployment is reduced. I want to spend some time on this area, as our government has been the most successful government in increasing employment and reducing unemployment. The reference for all of the data that I will quote in this section comes from Table 31, page 126 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review. Mr. Speaker, we recall the leader of the opposition asked, are we better off today than in 2019? I wish to say categorically that the labor market data says categorically that we are indeed better off than in 2019. I wish to first address the issue of employment. When we can see in 2019, the employed labor force stood at 83,977 people. In 2019, it stood at 83,977 people. In 2024, the employed labor force increased to 97,334, a net increase in jobs of 13,377 employed people. The increase in percentage terms is close to 16%. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore clear that economic growth has been accompanied by job creation, and more people are now working and making a living for themselves. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, unemployment is a key indicator of the success of any government. In this regard, the unemployment rate stood at 16.8% in 2019. The former administration touted this as a major success. They were all over the place, all hot and sweaty, believed that that was the most significant development since the birth of Jesus Christ. The unemployment rate in 2024, Mr. Speaker, stands at 10.8%. Yes, I repeat, 10.8%, Mr. Speaker, a record low for unemployment in St. Lucia's history. I also wish to state that in terms of numbers, the number of unemployed fell from 16,998 in 2019 to 11,806 in 2024, a reduction in the number of unemployed, 5,192 people. Mr. Speaker, in the area of youth unemployment, and this has been a vexing issue, and if we have to compare it, in 2019, it was 31.6%. And in 2024, it is 17.8%, a reduction of 13.8% points. This is, by any standard, Mr. Speaker, a wonderful achievement by the government in making a substantial reduction in the number of unemployed. But last night, the member for Choiseul Saldibas jumped on that very same issue and gave some explanation. He read through it, and then he interpreted it. Mr. Speaker, he made reference to page 54 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review, in which he quoted the following: Preliminary estimates from the CSO indicate a lower unemployment rate in 2024. This decline in unemployment is reflective of a reduction in the labor force participation rate and the size of the labor force, unquote. Available data show that the number of employed persons averaged of 97,354 in 2024, while there was a marginal decrease in the employed labor force in 2024. A larger reduction in the size of the labor force led to a higher employment rate and a lower unemployment rate. Mr. Speaker, he mentioned this as if the reduction in the labor force was a negative factor in accounting for the reduction in the labor force. Mr. Speaker, I first need to address the factors that account for changes in the labor force. And I think the member for Grozile started on a very good footing. One, the number of people who are leaving the labor force because of retirement. The number is increasing, Mr. Speaker, because of our demographics. Two, the number of people who may go into business and are no longer interested in looking for jobs. There is no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that the number of people entering into the MSME sector, the youth economy, is accelerating the number of people who are becoming business persons. Migration in search of more lucrative jobs overseas. We know that many of our nurses and doctors are being lured because of lucrative salaries being offered to them. There are many other professionals, Mr. Speaker, that are being lured. The so-called brain drain problem we have had, but now it's accentuating. It's been accentuated now in this particular context. The increase in the number of students opting to pursue further tertiary level studies and not opting to enter the labor market. This number is also increasing. Mr. Speaker, as more and more scholarships are being offered to students, there is that acknowledgement by young people that if you do not have a degree, you are at a distinct disadvantage. And more people are taking advantage of the opportunity given by this government to go and arm themselves meaningfully. There are those who may be structurally unemployed because they do not have the skills required in the job market. And there are those who may not be interested in gainful employment because they may have other sources of income. This is not an exhaustive list. But, Mr. Speaker, that is what we know about our labor market with absolute certainty. The size of our employed labor force has increased substantially from 83,977 in 2019 to 97,354 in 2024. And this represents an increase of 13,377 in the number of people employed in our country. The source of this information is Table 31, page 126 of the Economic and Social Review. I also wish to refer to the latest business performance survey from the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Speaker. During the third quarter of 2024, I wish to quote from the survey. The survey reveals continued positive trends in workforce changes, with 66% of respondents keeping workforce size stable, while 24% reported an increase in size. Mr. Speaker, 24% of respondents stated that they increased the size of the labor force. In simple language, 24% of the companies increased the number of people they employ. The Chamber has also identified recruitment challenges as a major problem for companies, with a large percentage revealing that they cannot find professional and skilled workers. It is also the case, Mr. Speaker, that the boom in the construction sector has been constrained by labor shortages. Right now, Mr. Speaker, many contractors cannot get employees to work in construction. Some projects have been halted, Mr. Speaker, because contractors cannot find workers. So, Mr. Speaker, the size of the employed workforce, labor force, has increased substantially over the period 2016-2021. This is a fact. I have also identified the factors that can cause a reduction in the labor force. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it is clear that there is a labor shortage in some areas of the economy, as the demand for labor exceeds the available supply. So, for you to stand there last night, to quote something, and just go off on a tangent, a frolic of your own, to try to give interpretation, I think there is need for greater attention to be paid to it, to give careful and sensible treatment to why that is happening. But you cannot just unilaterally stand there and just make a determination. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to infrastructure development. Our government designated the fiscal year 2024-2025 as the year of infrastructure. It was a clear acknowledgement that we had a serious infrastructure deficit and that there was need to accelerate investment in infrastructure. It is well known, Mr. Speaker, that economic growth and development requires sound infrastructure. Moreover, strong infrastructure provides essential goods and services to the people. The Minister for Finance clearly indicated that infrastructure is not only roads and bridges, but covers the range of other built infrastructure, including housing, education, police stations, agriculture, health, ports, water, and digital infrastructure. I recall clearly he accentuating this as well as Senior Minister. Infrastructure projects are usually multi-year projects. As projects need to be designed, then we need to go through the procurement process before a contractor can be selected, and then we proceed to implementation. That is, Mr. Speaker, we have to go through the project management cycle. We are hearing the peddling of mistruths, again from the members opposite, that nothing has happened in the year of infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, the question is whether our government has stepped up the pace of infrastructure investment in the economy. And I think it can be answered very easily. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, I wish to refer honorable members to page 28 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review and the section captioned Public Sector Construction. The first sentence states, and I quote, "Public sector construction expenditure is estimated to have increased considerably by 52.3%, and I wish to repeat for the benefit of honorable members opposite, 52.3% to 247.2 million in 2024. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, on the same page, under the heading Central Government Construction, the first sentence states, central government construction expenditure increased by 45.2% to 186.9 million in 2024. Mr. Speaker, time does not permit me to go through the full range of construction expenditure that the government has invested in to close the infrastructure gap. But I wish to mention one other critical statistic. That's construction contribution to GDP. Construction grew by 22.4%, Mr. Speaker. I repeat, 22.4%, and was the major driver of economic growth of 4.7% in 2024. The main driver of economic growth in 2024 was construction. But then, the members opposite indicated that nothing happened. I do not know what world the UWP acolytes live in when they say that nothing is happening in construction. As a measure of comparison, real construction GDP was 217.1 million in 2019 compared to 329.8 million in 2024, an increase over 2019 of 51.9% and the highest level of real construction on record, Mr. Speaker. The reference for the information I have just provided, pages 106 and 107 of the Economic and Social Review for 2024. It is simply amusing, Mr. Speaker, that the members opposite said nothing was happening in the year of infrastructure. And then towards the end of the year, when they saw that the pace of infrastructure had been, then they said, I thought you all said people don't eat roads. Because they forgot that a fiscal year spans from April to March. And that given the project management cycle, implementation begin in the latter part of the fiscal year. So when they saw that, they said, but you all said people want to eat in roads. We did say people did not eat roads, but this was in the context of COVID, when the government received monies from the multilateral agencies to give financial support to the people, but indeed chose to engage in what they call shovel-ready projects. That's the issue. That's the issue. They prefer to neglect the people who desperately needed support and focus on giving their friends contracts to build roads and engage in other wasteful expenditure. I now turn attention to impact of the budget policies on the
Member, you have 15 minutes left.
Mr. Speaker, given the fact that I did allude to some of the reports of the Chamber of Commerce, I think the point would be made in terms of the impact of the private sector. But just for me to indicate, Mr. Speaker, we have seen an expansion in investment by the private sector, from both domestic investment and foreign direct investment. And I want you to go to page 42 of the 2024 Economic and Social Review. In particular, Mr. Speaker, the review details the many projects being undertaken in the hotel sector. You remember, Leader of the Opposition, you always have a conversation about hotel rooms, hotel construction. And you all criticize even today, instead of running and hide when you all hear a conversation on hotel and about rooms. You know, you all boldly come. Now, I don't have to prove any point. You know what's happening in the hotel sector. Major constructions. You have Dreams, Marigo Hotel, Lifeco Wellness Resort, Sandals, Latok Bay Gardens Beach Resort Expansion, Coconut Bay Resort, and Casaba Beach Resort Project. All types of things are happening at this time. And time will not permit me to get. This reflects the level of confidence by investors in the St. Lucian economy, and the amount of investment is unprecedented, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the major constraints for these developments are labor and raw material shortages. Our government has been the government which has been responsible for expanding the tourism sector, Mr. Speaker. In addition, work has also started on the Rodney Bay Commercial Center during the latter half of 2024. So when the members opposite and the acolytes would like to rescue St. Lucia and are saying there is an economic crisis, it is clear that no one believes them, as the private sector has confidence in the future of the economy. It is clear that we need to secure the victory of our government, led by the honorable member for Kaswis East, as we are witnessing an economic boom, the likes of which we have never seen for many, many, many decades, Mr. Speaker. Export St. Lucia has also played a critical role in supporting businesses in exporting products. This includes sourcing markets for products, for example, CMOS, Dashin, and other products of small businesses. Mr. Speaker, our government of St. Lucia has implemented various initiatives and support mechanisms to bolster the micro, small, and medium enterprises sector, recognizing its critical role in economic growth, job creation, and poverty reduction. In this regard, the St. Lucia Development Bank is one of the key institutions we are using to support the MSME. I wish to now turn to our social services. And Mr. Speaker, just because I do not have too much time, I will engage in an exercise of compression. But all I wish to say is that I focus on health and education in particular. I think the member for VA4 North and Minister for Health did go through the whole spectrum of interventions in the healthcare sector. The central focus is to destroy privilege and equalize opportunity, so that the inequalities would be reduced and more single mothers and other vulnerable persons would have access to basic care. We are also building an infrastructure with St. Jude's, OKEU, the Winston Paris Medical Complex, Betty Wells Urban Polyclinic. All of this is part of an architecture to improve the health system, to deliver to the people of this country, but also to support the tourism industry. Because right now, demographic trends in North America suggest that people are living much longer and there's more disposable income among the elderly. And if the elderly goes to a jurisdiction, they would want to know if they fall sick. We have a healthcare system that will be able to stabilize them, at least before an air ambulance or so can take them to their respective destinations. So when we are busy promoting our destination, as a tourism haven, as paradise, we should decide to put certain things in place to ensure we take care of them. In the line of education, again, to destroy privilege and equalize opportunity. That's why the laptop program is important, so that everybody in the society have access to it. Facilities fees, even the payment of certain subjects to help ease the squeeze on the parents of the country, Mr. Speaker. And obviously, we are retooling them with technical and vocational education so that we make our education system more relevant to the socioeconomic needs of our society, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the area of equity, our government will continue to give emphasis to social protection through the implementation of various social programs implemented through the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice and Empowerment, and its major agency, the St. Lucia Social Development Fund, which implements programs. Through the Holistic Opportunities for Personal Empowerment Hope, the Basic Needs Trust Fund, for which an allocation of $1.7 million is made in the budget, BNTF 11 project, and the Infrastructure Development Program, for which an allocation of $6 million is allocated in the budget. The reference for this information is page 979 of the 2025-2026 estimates of revenue and expenditure. Mr. Speaker, we should also not forget that our government reinstated the distress fund, for which an allocation of $600,000 is made in the estimates for the financial year 2025-2026. Mr. Speaker, when we thought that the Prime Minister had created an environment for his policies to overwhelm inflation, and that's why it's at 0.5, we are going to keep inflation at bay, even though the global environment is overheating with inflation, Mr. Speaker. And the Prime Minister, I'm not going to list them in the interest of time, but you go in his budget speech, he outlined a whole series of measures. This was the bunker buster. You see through the whole thick walls of their propaganda and their lies, it went through it, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I am about to join a long final in preparation for landing. And at this juncture, I want to turn my attention to the beautiful constituency of Labrie-Auger. Mr. Speaker, I want in closing to thank the people of Labrie-Auger for making me the instrument of their wishes. And I did not enter to gather triumphs of personal distinction, but to do their work. I remember people like Mata, Mr. Emanis, Ms. Atinaida, Ive Simeon, Mr. Eustace. They died with the hope that this young man from Martin Luther Street Library would take them to the promised land. And sometimes on the battlefields of politics, you get injured and you plead human, and probably you want to take a rest. But when you think of them, my forward movement is propelled by the Spirit, because they believe that I'm going to take them to the promised land. All will come and go, Mr. Speaker. Just make sure I am no less determined to keep the constituency on track to the promised land. Mr. Speaker, I went through a whole list of what we are going to do in the constituency when I spoke in the estimates debate. Mr. Speaker, the back talk is... Mr. Speaker, in terms of being proud, just this morning we witnessed J.D. Emmanuel from Mont Paul in J4 in my constituency, right there in this chamber. And you know, I jokingly said to some of my colleagues, we have oil in Labrie, even though it's coconut oil. And now we have gold. And so I am Karifta goal, and that's no ordinary goal. And I want to congratulate her. I think human tongue has no words to describe how we feel. Her mother, her father, because these are people I know very well, Mr. Speaker. And I know when I spoke to the mother over the phone and I spoke to the dad, she was so confident, very quiet. The dad told me, she called before she ran the race and said, Daddy, I want you to go in the living room, sit there and watch the television and don't go outside. Just watch what I'm about to do. And she just delivered. Quietly. That's the Laborian style. That's the Laborian style. You never hear me on a platform or in the house say I'm going to beat anybody. My papa, my tonton, I'm not your kiss priest. I ain't beating nobody. But I know for sure that we are no less determined in the People's Republic of Labrie to keep the red flag flying.
That's right.
And so, Mr. Speaker, after such a brilliant budget by the Minister for Finance and Prime Minister, I heard Flambeau has a rescue team. They're on a rescue mission. What are they trying to rescue us about? Is it from high economic growth? From low unemployment? Is that what you want to rescue us from? We needed a rescue team during the time of COVID. 5 more minutes. During COVID, when single mothers were taking it hard, were falling into drowning in poverty, could not breathe, lost their jobs, that's when we needed a rescue team. The country was rescued on July 26, 2021, and that's the bottom line. And we are not going back to those dark days of failed policies. So there's nothing personal between me and anybody opposite. I love my fellow St. Lucians, and I will continue to do what I can to elevate the living standards of politicians. However, every single time, Mr. Speaker, the United Workers' Party is in office, they stop all our projects. We just opened the Labrie market. The Labrie market was frozen in the currents of wickedness and oppression for almost 6 years, and victimization. Look at it there. And every time they pass by that market, because it is a permanent structure that will remind them of how wicked they are. And they'll want to go and have a meeting there. That's fine. It's a public facility. Go there. But every time they go to that site, they must remember that they prevented it from being built. Mais les bas en power, la was obligé bouiller. We are trying to address, we are moving now to upgrade OJ, to finish upgrade our schools, to build our roads. You all stopped 30 free contracts in 2016, prevented all of them. Some were UWP supporters, because I don't discriminate. They stopped every one of them, even though they were UWPs. When Dr. Anthony gave me an opportunity to have 30 free contractors execute their work. And right now we're in office, I'm trying to address the backlog, and this is why the Prime Minister must send a faster vehicle for me, because I need him to write off all of those roads, so that it free up my hands to do the things that I need to do. But obviously, Mr. Speaker, I am not bothered about UWP. I am focused on taking my constituency to the promised land, to a place where there'll be no over-dependence on any political party. Whether we're in government or in opposition, we are able to do some basic things for ourselves. But we will always remember, through the long tracks of future time, it was only the Labour Party that responded to our needs, our pressing but legitimate needs. And so, Mr. Speaker, as I close, I hope I have been able to show that the budget policies of the government have been a tremendous success. We have witnessed unprecedented economic expansion, record employment levels, and the lowest unemployment level in history. Our government has also record government investment in infrastructure, improved education, health, and equity. There is greater confidence in the St. Lucia economy by the private sector, a boom in foreign investment, and more businesses in the MSME. Mr. Speaker, we have also invested significant resources in social protection to provide for the poor and less fortunate in our society. I therefore give my full support to the 2025-2026 Appropriation Bill. May God continue to guide the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, and of course guide my colleagues, so that together we will continue to advance the business of this country and to elevate the living conditions of the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, I yield the floor.